People are manifesting right now. Let's help people understand and become aware of that. What would you tell someone who is just now realizing that they are doing this and they need to be aware of it? What are they looking for? How do you help them acknowledge and become aware of this?
Yeah, all of us are manifesting, but in some ways, this is very much like if we're looking at improving our physical health. You don't run a marathon the first day you decide to get into shape, right? What typically has to happen? One is you have to be aware, if you will, that you want to get into shape and run a marathon. Most of us are not even at the starting line of the marathon, right? So if you have no knowledge of it and no tools or don't have a guide, then it's hard to do this, at least in a way where you make it maximally possible for you to manifest. And so the first thing is it's not a one and done. It's not like you wake and go, I want this, and okay, universe, make it happen with this thought that there's some magical power, or we mentioned earlier, the law of attraction. Uh, and then there's this thing outside of yourself that will now get turned on, and you'll get everything you've ever dreamed of. One of the first lessons is to understand the difference between what you want and what you need. And what I mean by that is many people are seduced by the Western capitalist narrative of if I get wealth, if I get power, if I get position, now I will be happy. So they get lost on that. And we know from innumerable studies and also actually looking at how people live in Eastern cultures, how that's a false narrative. People strive so hard, they get so focused on accomplishing those things. And then they get there and there's nothing there for them. And part of the problem is, and getting back to awareness, for many people, the drivers of this competitive, ruthless behavior oftentimes is the insecurity or shame that they carry from their childhood trauma. And they're trying to do certain actions that they believe uh, will result in people giving them affirmation that they're okay. And of course, this is not the way to do it because no matter what you have, if you carry that shame and insecurity, no matter what anyone tells you, you are still insecure and filled with shame. And so, what's the point of that story? The point of the story is one, there is no outside power. You are the only person who can give you the gift of happiness and acceptance and affirmation. There's a Stoic philosopher, one of them by the name of Epictetus, who was a slave. And he made some very wise and profound statements. And one of them is I cannot change my external circumstances, but what I can change is how I react to those circumstances. And so this gets to the point of you giving yourself the gift of happiness, you being okay with yourself, you not try to hide your shame, but accepting it as part of you and not resisting it. It's the resistance that causes people a lot of problems. The other aspect of it is that even accepting the shame, the things you hate about yourself, the mistakes you've made, the reality that you are often a flailing failure in many ways, you still deserve to be loved. You still deserve to be cared for. You are worthy of love. And when you're able to sit and accept that, that changes everything. And it changes the nature of manifestation because when you're working from the mentality of shame and insecurity, that stimulates your sympathetic nervous system, which is your fear driver. And it limits the engagement of certain aspects or cognitive brain networks in terms of them working at their best. and which also is part of the book. Not only does it tell that story, but it gives you many examples of how the brain works or doesn't work. And so if you're looking at the world through that lens of fear, then that negatively affects your ability to manifest in the maximal way. Verse if you shift, and what I mean by that is you're no longer focused on self in the sense of, I want this affirmation. You look through the lens of saying, everyone is suffering like me, and they deserve for me to be of service to, if I can, limit their suffering. What happens when you look through that lens is you have a very positive effect on your physiology. You helping another, being of service to another, not only benefits them, it has a huge positive effect on you. And these cognitive brain networks, which are necessary to function well, to have you truly manifest, it is when you shift to this parasympathetic nervous system, or this more open aspect, or looking at the world through the lens of kindness and love, that you have all these positive effects and you are able to maximize the ability of your brain networks to work together to have you manifest. And when I say you have to understand the difference between what you think you want and what you need, because once you shift from uh, from one attitude to another, everything else shifts, and you have this very, very positive effect.